Hello everyone. Welcome to today's presentation. I'm excited to have you here. Our topic is the Comprehensive Guide to Sales Contracts and Closing Processes. We'll explore the legal frameworks, key elements, roles involved, common challenges, and best practices to help ensure successful transactions. Over the next few minutes, we'll cover all these important aspects to give you a clear understanding of how to navigate sales contracts and close deals effectively. Let's get started. Contracts for sale are formal agreements that outline the specific terms under which goods or property are exchanged between two parties. Think of them as the blueprint for a smooth transaction, ensuring everyone is on the same page. Their main purpose is to establish clear and binding sales transactions, which helps protect both the buyer and the seller legally. This means that if any issues arise, there's a solid foundation to resolve them. Additionally, these contracts play a crucial role in preventing disputes. By clearly specifying obligations, rights, and remedies in case of breach or disagreement, they help minimize misunderstandings. As we move forward in this presentation, keep in mind that a well-drafted contract is key to a successful sale and a smooth closing process. Let's take a closer look at the essential elements of a sales contract. First, we have offer and acceptance. This means one party proposes the terms, and the other agrees to those terms without making any changes. It's the foundation of mutual agreement. Next is consideration, which involves an exchange of value, like money, goods, or services. Without this exchange, the contract isn't complete. Then there's mutual consent. This is crucial because both parties need to agree freely, without feeling pressured or making mistakes. Consent must be genuine and voluntary. Lastly, we have capacity and legality. This means both parties must have the legal ability to enter into a contract, and the purpose of the contract must be lawful. If any of these elements are missing, the contract could be invalid. All these points tie back to our overall theme, ensuring we understand what makes a sales contract solid, enforceable, and fair for everyone involved. Let's take a closer look at the different types of contracts. First, we have bilateral versus unilateral contracts. Bilateral contracts involve mutual promises, meaning both parties have committed to something. Each promises to do something in exchange for the other. On the other hand, unilateral contracts are based on one party's performance. Only one party makes a promise, and the other party's performance completes the contract. Next, we have express versus implied contracts. Express contracts explicitly state their terms. These are clear agreements where everyone knows what's expected. Implied contracts, however, arise from conduct or circumstances where the actions of the parties suggest a contract even if nothing was explicitly spoken. Finally, there's the distinction between written and oral agreements. Written contracts are documented, providing solid proof of the terms and making enforcement easier. Oral agreements, while often valid, can be harder to prove and enforce because they rely on memory and testimony. Understanding these differences is crucial as we navigate the complexities of sales contracts and the closing process. Each type has its own strengths and considerations, and knowing which one applies can significantly impact how we approach negotiations and enforce agreements. Now let's move on to the next key aspects of sales contracts. First, we have the amount, schedule, method, and conditions of payment. It's crucial to clearly specify how much is to be paid, when payments are due, and by what method, whether it's bank transfer, check, or another form. Additionally, outlining any conditions tied to payments helps prevent misunderstandings. Next, we look at delivery and transfer of ownership. This part defines exactly when the ownership of the goods passes from the seller to the buyer. It's important to specify the timing, the method of transfer, such as delivery, pickup, and the exact point at which the buyer assumes ownership rights. Then, we consider warranties and representations. These are assurances made by the seller regarding the condition, quality, or legality of the goods being sold. Clear warranties help build trust and provide remedies if the goods don't meet the agreed standards. All of these elements, payment terms, transfer of ownership, warranties, are vital components within sales contracts. They help ensure clarity, protect both parties, and facilitate a smooth closing process. Remember, a well-drafted contract addresses these key points comprehensively, aligning with the overall goal of making sales transactions transparent and enforceable. Now, let's talk about the legal considerations and compliance aspects of sales contracts. First, compliance requirements are crucial. It's essential that sales contracts adhere to all relevant laws and regulations. This ensures that the contracts are not only valid, but also enforceable in a court of law. Next, we need to be aware of common legal pitfalls. Vague terms, for instance, can create confusion and make enforcement difficult. Similarly, lacking the capacity to enter into a contract, like when one party is a minor or not mentally competent, can invalidate the agreement. And of course, engaging in a legal subject matter is a clear no-go that can render a contract null and void. Finally, ensuring enforceability is about clear drafting. We want to make sure that the language is unambiguous and meets all statutory requirements. By doing so, we reduce the risk of disputes and make it easier to uphold the contract if issues arise. All of these points tie back to our overall focus on creating solid, reliable sales agreements that support smooth closing processes and protect everyone's interests. Now, let's walk through the process of closing a sale. First, we have the preparation stage. This involves doing thorough due diligence and making sure all contractual conditions are met. It's about ensuring everything is in order before moving forward. Next comes the closing meeting, where both parties come together to finalize the agreements, transfer funds, and execute the necessary documents. This is a critical step to officially seal the deal. Finally, there are post-closing actions. These include recording deeds or titles to establish ownership officially and distributing closing statements to all involved parties. Together, these steps create a smooth transition from agreement to ownership, tying into our overall theme of understanding how sales contracts and closing processes work seamlessly. Let's talk about the documentation required at closing. First, we have deeds and bills of sale. These are the legal documents that transfer ownership rights from the seller to the buyer. It's crucial that these are properly prepared and executed to ensure a smooth transfer. Next, there are disclosures. These documents outline any material facts relevant to the sale, such as known issues or defects. Providing full disclosures helps protect both parties and promotes transparency. Then, we have the closing statements. These detail all the financial transactions involved in the sale, everything from the purchase price to any adjustments or fees. It's important to review these carefully to understand exactly what's being paid and received. Finally, there are the title documents. These verify legal ownership and ensure that the title is clear of any liens or claims. Proper title documentation is essential to confirm that the buyer is receiving a valid and marketable title. All of these pieces of documentation are key components of the overall sales contract and closing process. They work together to make sure the transaction is legally sound, transparent, and properly recorded. Now, let's talk about the roles of the parties involved in the sales process. First, we have the buyer and seller negotiating the terms and obligations. This is a critical step because it sets the foundation for a successful transaction. Both parties need to clearly communicate their expectations and work towards an agreement that satisfies everyone involved. Next, we have the responsibilities of the buyer and seller themselves. Each has specific duties to ensure the process moves smoothly. For example, the buyer typically handles securing financing and inspections, while the seller needs to provide accurate disclosure and maintain the property until closing. Moving on, let's discuss the role of agents. Agents act as facilitators. They help communicate between the buyer and seller, assist in negotiations, and guide the procedural steps. Their expertise helps prevent misunderstandings and keeps the transaction on track. Finally, we have attorneys. Their role is to provide legal advice, prepare and review all necessary documents, and ensure that everything complies with the law. Their involvement is crucial in protecting your interests and making sure the transaction is legally sound. Overall, each party has specific responsibilities that, when carried out effectively, contribute to a smooth and successful sale. This coordination is essential in the broader context of sales contracts and closing processes, which we've been discussing throughout this presentation. Now, let's talk about some common issues that can arise during the sale and closing process. One of the main delays often comes from financing, inspections, or documentation. These are critical steps that can sometimes take longer than expected, causing delays in closing the deal. Another area where issues frequently occur is contract and property disputes. These might involve disagreements over contract terms, questions about the property's condition, or problems related to the title. Addressing these disputes early is essential to keep things moving smoothly. Financing challenges are also quite common. Sometimes, a buyer might face difficulties with loan approval or delays in funding, which can hold up the closing process. To handle these issues effectively, good management is key. This includes clear communication with all parties, having contingency plans in place, and being ready to resolve disputes quickly. Finally, it's important to remember the key factors that influence the closing process. These include financing, inspections, documentation, contract terms, the property's condition, and title issues. Being aware of these helps us anticipate potential hurdles and manage them proactively. Overall, understanding these common issues and having strategies to address them is crucial to a successful sale and closing. It keeps the process smooth, efficient, and positive for everyone involved. Let's wrap up with some final best practices to ensure a smooth sale and closing process. First, maintaining clear and consistent communication among all parties is absolutely essential. This means everyone should be on the same page, which helps prevent misunderstandings or surprises down the line. Next, preparing accurate documentation is crucial. Having detailed and precise records helps avoid confusion and keeps the process moving smoothly. Remember, thorough documentation is your safety net. Prompt follow-ups are also key. Addressing outstanding issues and deadlines quickly helps prevent delays and keeps the transaction on track. It shows professionalism and commitment to a successful closing. By implementing these best practices, you significantly reduce risks and increase the likelihood of completing the transaction successfully. These steps are about making the process as seamless and efficient as possible, which ties back to the overall goal of a smooth sale and closing.